All right, looks like we're good. All right. So I am Jonathan Fallett.
I am Elizabeth Gerard.
I'm Tina Monroe.
All right. And I did my studies on the Tlingit potlatch. The Tlingit are an indigenous people of the Pacific Northwest coast of North America. And I also did mine on the Native Hawaiian poi menu. The Native Hawaiians are indigenous Polynesian people of the Hawaiian Islands. Tlingit potlatch is the potlatch is a word to give from their native language, and it's really just a big occasion that's hosted by mostly upper class people in their culture in their village, and they bring people in from all over different tribes to go ahead and partake in this festival. It's kind of to show off what we have. You can have what we have if you do what we do, but it's kind of a showing off for high society. And Hawaiian poi is a food that's created from a root plant in Hawaii that the Aborigines of Hawaii just have in most of their staple foods. And it's a superfood that they have, and it's pretty big on their history. So.
Okay, the two cultures that I studied tailgating and I studied Hindu weddings. As far as tailgating goes, it dates back to the ancient times of Rome and Greece with what used to be called harvest festivals. Today, the tailgate culture is based around building a community grounded in a common love for events such as football. Tailgating offers a variety of food and drink that's typically served from the tailgate of a car in a parking lot. Hindu weddings offer over 100 dishes to their guests. They're not limited to a specific set of traditional foods. The meal would differentiate based on the location in India. The North Hindu weddings serve many different meat dishes, where the coastal Hindu weddings serve more crab and fish. South Hindu weddings are more vegetarian based, and now vegetarian weddings are more prominent now, more ever so than in the past. The Hindu marriage season is a special time also that's important to mention. Henna tattoos are very important and are called mende. Mende is considered among the most auspicious ornaments of married women, and it's very important in their culture.
I had Japanese rice and Pennsylvania Dutch. And the Japanese rice is very important in their culture. They're like grew rice as a staple food from the very beginning, and they grow it in the water. It takes a lot of hands. It's a very manual labor type thing, or it was in the early days, and the families and communities were share water, and they would share the labor to put this together. So it was important that people got along, and so they understood communal living and getting along with each other. They would teach this from one generation to another. So nowadays you really think of the Japanese as very culturally close to one another and their environment and each other. Rice is important in Japanese society. It's called the essence to the culture, and it's believed that some of the Japanese social behaviors had their beginnings in the wet rice cultivation. Many of the linguistic links to rice in Japanese that show the importance of the food staple are like gohan, which means cooked rice, and it means meal. So just in, like we said, Kleenex, some generic kind of term. So it's really important in their world. Pennsylvania Dutch are immigrants that came from Germany and Switzerland, and they settled in Pennsylvania. we usually think of them just as the Amish, but they were actually the Amish, the Lutheran, Anabaptists, and the Mennonites. And the Amish and the Mennonites are the more conservative sect that came over, and the Lutherans are the more liberal. Some of these folks were very poor. Some of them were quite wealthy, and they could, afford meats and wines and things like that. Farms were very important to the Dutch, and they would grow enough for them and their families. They would grow enough to share with the community, sell, and they were big into canning and preserving their excess from their gardens so that they could have it later. Even today, they still, that's a big part of the community, is canning and preserving for later. Even though today it's not seasonally that you have to do that. You can get tomatoes all year long, things like that. But traditionally they still do that.
Awesome. So a lot of the differences that I've seen between mine, at again, the Tlingit societal. So the more people who had more would be the ones who would throw the parties, their potlatches, and that differs widely from the way the Hawaiians had theirs. Was this is a food that anybody could have, anybody could grow it, anybody could make it. They taught everyone how to do it. So two big differences there with how the cultures wrap around the way that they do their culturally important food. One thing that I did notice, though, that together at the same time, the Tlingit rich people would throw these parties. Really, anybody was invited. Anybody could show up, and there was a lot of equality there. Like they'd have eating contests and stuff, so everyone down to the same level, and everyone would get along pretty well. Same thing with the Hawaiian would be everyone, although different, they believe that a lot of the Hawaiian poi was planted by deities, and anyone can believe in any god. So it's pretty interesting to see, although they're pretty different. They all believe in family. They all believe in respect for their elders. They all believe in community. So pretty interesting way to vastly different cultures are doing a lot of the same stuff.
Excellent. The commonalities and differences among the cultures that I studied, both of the cultures share a similarity through the emphasis on just coming together to celebrate a common love for an event. There's also a heavy focus on spirituality. That was very important in both. They also use music for entertainment, and both cultures use little or no utensils to eat their food. They definitely both compete to see who has the best dishes and who's serving the food that will be enjoyed the most. The differences in the cultures are very substantial. Tailgating is based around a sporting or musical event. It's usually classic barbecue theme or focuses around the main meat courses. Hindu weddings serve over 100 dishes, which are spicy in nature. Chicken, plants, fruits, and rice are the main ingredients in making their traditional dishes. Dessert is also a main focus in Hindu weddings, where appetizers are really a main focus of tailgating. So those are the commonalities and differences that I saw.
The commonalities in the Japanese rice and the Pennsylvania Dutch were that both cultures were very family oriented and community oriented. They had really close ties to their family and to the community. They were both very frugal. use every part of everything in their food, the preparation, feeding the animals in some way. Every part of everything that they do is used. The Pennsylvania Dutch, even not the Japanese, they even take like the stalks from the rice and weave it into all kinds of things to use. I mean, all of them they were both very frugal. The hardworking, both cultures are very hardworking. I had difficulties finding a lot of differences with these two cultures, even though they're really different, maybe in appearance or the way they did some things. I mean, they were really quite alike. I thought the Japanese were a lot more formal in the way that they held their lives. There was a lot more formality in it than the Pennsylvania Dutch. I couldn't find that the Dutch grew rice. And rice is not that big in their diet. They may eat it, but I did not find it in their diet. So, and it's a huge thing in the Japanese diet.
Cool. Let's see. Yeah, I think the only thing next is to go over culturation, ethnocentrism.
Yes. Do you want to start off, Jonathan, or would you like me to?
If one of you guys want to, that'd be
okay. I'll start off with the enculturation then.
Okay.
The process of learning all aspects of culture through the experience, observation, and understanding throughout one's life. Ethocentrism, the belief that your culture is superior to all others, and you have hostility toward other cultures is normal for all people. Any culture that does not agree is an unnatural thing for them. So those were the two that I did.
Thank you.
Yes.
Jim, do you want me to go next?
I can, sure. Let's see here. Cultural relativity. What cultural relativity is the idea that a person's beliefs and their actions should be understood based on the person's own culture rather than judged against the criteria of another. Could see that pretty well with the potlatches that they had. Everyone kind of agreed to do their own thing, and they had their own rules and their own customs. There were, of course, other tribes and stuff around at the same time, but they didn't really bother with what anybody else was doing. They had their own thing going. Same with the Hawaiians. I mean, they're on an island, so of course they're not going to be influenced too heavily by anybody else but themselves. It was all the same tribe pretty much throughout all the islands. For the symbol or symbolism, for the Tlingits, they would have a lot of both cultures were pretty heavy into gods. So the Tlingit would have ornate dinnerware and silverware and stuff would be very, and they'd have really totem poles and stuff they would have around the areas where they would have these potlatches. Obviously, same with the Hawaiians is they had they believed that the food that they had came from gods. Gods invented it, gave it to them, and they even believed that some humans came, or the first Hawaiian people of the island came from that food that came from a god. So that's their symbolism, mostly religious.
Subculture, a culture within a culture that is separate but has some of the same beliefs. Like the Pennsylvania Dutch, the Amish, and the Mennonites and the Lutheran all believe quite differently, but yet they're from that same group. I also put like surfers in Hawaii. You know, they have that Hawaiian culture they believe, but they're a subset, they're a subculture in Hawaii. They have their own, you know, some of their own rituals and things that they do that revolve around surfing. Ritual, an activity with several parts that has significant religious or cultural meaning, like wedding ceremonies. And the Japanese and the Pennsylvania Dutch have, again, very family oriented, very spiritual weddings.
Excuse me. Excuse me, I'm sorry, I was just coughing.
That's okay. I'm done.
I'm sorry, I have a cold.